In a lot of Diablo 2 guides, the model is best in slot gear on a level 99 character. Most players won't reach that, so today we're going to be looking at how a real player will get through Nightmare in Hell on the Amazon, but this time with lightning. This build in particular is exceptionally nice since it can get through Hell even just using the starter javelins it gives you at level 1, unlike most other Amazon builds. And yes, I've done that, though there are some things that can make it a lot less silly. Starting out, we're going to assume that you're using your Nightmare respec to switch builds, and that means starting your stats out from scratch, though I do have a Lightning Javelin starter build on the way that can transition directly into this. That said, stats for this build can be all over the place based on recommendations. Though for this build, I would generally assume you'll eventually want to get a Titans, which is basically best in slot on the weapon, and it's fairly common, even if it's just in post-game. So I usually aim for the 109 dexterity for that, and enough strength for the rest of my gear, which is usually 70 for Nightmare, though you can bump it up later if you plan on using a Spirit Shield post-game as well. But beyond that, your points should go pretty much directly into Vitality for survivability as usual. Since we're starting this in Nightmare with a assumed respec, skill dumping is definitely a thing we can do, though which skills varies depending on who you ask, since there's a few different approaches to this build, but it mostly boils down to 3 factors: melee, ranged, and minion. Generally, unless I've found a replenishing javelin, I will usually favor leaning towards melee with a touch of minion, but let's go over the differences in the 3. For melee, your focus is going to be on Charge Strike for single target damage and Lightning Strike for crowd control, and then more in synergies. For range, your focus is going to be, again, Charge Strike for single target damage and Lightning Fury for crowd control, and then again, more synergies. And for minion, your focus is going to be on Charge Strike for single target damage, then your choice of crowd control, and then you're going to be investing pretty much entirely in your Valkyrie, which can make the strongest minion in the game easily. Each of these can work, but as you can tell, for all of them, you want Charge Strike, and you want it synergized as much as you can spare. I choose the one that I choose because of reasons. Basically, I have bad luck with certain things, and I also have a plan for the armor. But yeah, this build that I usually use, by early Nightmare, I have max Charge Strike and 1 point in the passives I want. I'll usually still get a point in Pierce, even for melee focus, since there will still be situations where Lightning Fury can be nice. A lucky Pierce here and there can actually make it even more nice, since, well, you'll have more explosions. After all those points into core damage skill and its supports, we grab hold of our synergies. This is where you usually decide between Lightning Strike for Chain Lightning and Lightning Fury for Lightning Explosions. Whichever you choose, that will be your next max point skill. When that one is done, you can move on to synergies and give yourself pretty much insane damage, or you can invest in Valkyrie to give you basically one of the best minions in the game, as we said earlier. It is worth noting there are plenty of lightning immunes in the game. This build will generally want to run past them, or use jab to finish them off. This is one downside of a single elemental focused character, regardless of class, though this one's boss killing speed makes up for it, and you can use lower resist wands that you can shop to lower the resistance of enemies, but usually I just run past this stuff because I don't feel like swapping out all my skills and things like that. As far as Mercenary, Holy Freeze Mercenaries, which are Act 2 defensive mercenaries from Nightmare, with Insight polearms, are the most popular starting options. The only thing I would absolutely avoid is the Blessed Aim Mercenary, because that will actually override and mess with your other stuff. And you don't really need the extra attack rating, since you're not really relying on hitting with the attack, you're relying on hitting with the AoE of the attack, sort of. Air quotes on AoE. For this Mercenary, though, Insight is just Ral, Tyr, Talon, Soul in a basic non-magical polearm, and as far as armor and helmet, it's just straight for resist and life leech, whether that's a blood helmet and a duress armor or what have you. It's just, you want that life leech and you want those resists. And it's kind of like specially important for this character because you're going to be getting into close range. I would even go so far as to say recommend bugging him, which there are videos on my channel about how to bug Act 2 as well as other mercenaries when you start your runs. Just do it right off the bat, get it out of the way, and you'll be good, since you'll usually be on the front lines with him if you don't get a set of replenishing javelins for Lightning Fury specifically, and this can lead to him dying more than usual. Your gear, though, is pretty basic, thankfully. Jewelry should just be resistances and stats, and if you can swing it, some mana per kill helps a ton too. Similar situation for boots and belts, whether crafted, gambled, found, or even just straight purchased off a merchant. Just keep those resistance stats up, and try to get some mana per kill in there if you can too. Where we do want to consider switching it up a little bit are the gloves. Getting increased attack speed here can be somewhat useful, since faster attacks mean you can deal with enemies a lot faster with jab and charge strike, since you're kind of like focusing them down one at a time, and obviously more is better of that, but they are a good source of it. Fairly early on, you can also even shop things with 20% increased attack speed on your gloves, plus javelin skills. Those can appear on gloves as well, which are honestly among the best items in the game for this build, and are simple to shop at merchants, though you likely won't find the full +3 version until you're fairly reasonable level, since shop levels are influenced by your level. So just keep an eye out for it whenever you're at Anya and stuff like that, and whenever you get to post-game, you can actually shop her red portal to her for a really fast way to build up at least one of these, and even one for archers. In the weapon slot, we're using javelins. No shit. They're not able to be socketed, so no fancy rune words here. But replenishing javelins are a godsend if you're going with Lightning Fury. Personally, I have terrible luck trying to shop replenishing javelins. Just absolutely atrocious luck. That's why I generally prefer melee, but they are shoppable from every difficulty, though there are two different qualities of the replenishment. So I usually just try shopping them in Nightmare to try and get the higher one. Mixed luck, but you may have better luck than me, so try it out before you commit to one or the other. You'll usually, if you do shop for them, you'll usually want at least 2 stacks of them. I do this even with the melee one. I'll have a stack for each hand. One for each weapon swap, so you can have one replenishing while the other is being used. If you start getting low on durability, just swapping to the charged strike can help preserve them a bit, though this will still use up quantity. It's just significantly slower at using them up, so yeah, you can smash things down while they're being replenished as well. That leaves all of our socketed gear. Helmet is going to be lore again. Ort and Soul in a 2-socket helmet. It's +1 all skills, lightning resist, and mana per kill. Definitely a nice combo and super easy to get. I usually keep at least one stashed around for new characters, and it is easily one of the best starter helms. There are better helms out there, but this is just super reliable until you find that other gear that is so much better. Armor is honestly easy enough just to leave on stealth from normal if you want. It's quite solid armor, and yeah, it's just there. Though, as usual, the options for resist with smoke from the runes Neff and Lum in 2-socket armor, or even some melee options like duress with Shale, and Thul for a little bit of crushing blow and stuff like that, and resist can be nice. Though I'm actually going to do a bit of a strange recommendation, and that is the Amazon class rune word, Peace. Shale, Thul, and Am, which is super cheap for what it does. It's +2 skills, faster hit recovery, some other odds and ends, plus summoning a level 15 Valkyrie pretty much once every 50 or so hits. It has a very low chance, but it's there. This last one is why we get that 1 point in Valkyrie way earlier for my preferred setup, since with 1 point in Valkyrie, the summoned Valkyrie will have permanence, which won't happen without that point, since it will check her and unsummon her randomly otherwise. So basically, it gives us the best of both worlds, letting us focus on our lightning skills while still having a strong ally, a level 15 Valkyrie. Though it will take a minute to get her up at first, as long as you're fighting, you should almost always have a Valkyrie, because at level 15, with a point in all of your passives, she's actually kind of tanky, especially with the random gear she gets. Last up are shields. This is one of the few builds where I'll actually often have 2 shields even on a starter build, since I'll be swapping between javelins using weapon swap. You can mix and match, but the 2 shields I would recommend off the bat are going to be Rhyme, which is Shale and Eth in a 2-socket shield, and Ancient's Pledge, which is Ral, Ord, and Tal in a 3-socket shield. Both are good options, though I tend to prefer Rhyme when possible for Magic Find and Cannot Be Frozen, and it's okay with a little bit of resist. There are higher end shields you can get, but you're better off just waiting until you get a spirit shield for the character, unless you want a low strength variant, in which case you'll be looking at Splendor with Eth and Lum, or Sanctuary with Coco and Mal. So it kind of works good. I would really say that I generally prefer having 2 of the same shield, but you can mix them up. All that said, the Lightning Javazon is a simple and fairly straightforward build that does have some quirks it can exploit to do tons of damage, and with late game gear, it's one of the fastest boss killers in the game, though even with suboptimal gear, it's nothing to scoff at. A special thanks to the viewers, channel members, patrons, and subscribers who make this content possible. While we still need to chase the algorithm a bit, your support makes more of these utility videos possible.